Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast and live stream from FTN Fantasy. I am Aaron Schatz of FTN Fantasy, of course. We are going to be previewing the AFC South today. I am joined by Mike Tanier. Make sure you are subscribing to his Substack at miketanier.substack.com. The URL is a little cut off there by having three of us on the screen, but it is miketanier.substack.com.
My bad.
And we are joined, Rivers McCown is joining us today. Rivers back in the book this year and covering the AFC South. So since we are hitting the AFC South teams today, we brought Rivers along to give his thoughts on the Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Tennessee Titans. Don't forget that if you are watching us live, which we do at 11 a.m. Eastern on Thursdays, you can make comments and ask questions, and we'll respond. Don't also forget that our show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports and the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Underdog is now offering a new customer FTN special with up to $250 on your first time deposit. Best ball season is officially underway, and the easiest place to play is at Underdog Fantasy. Make your choice from slow or fast drafts, starting with the $3 puppy all the way up to the $1,000 entry mastiff. You can also challenge your friends in battles as small as 2 people up to the usual 12. The Underdog app is easy to use, and new best ball drafts are dropping each week. With the NFL season less than 2 months away, now is the time to start drafting to prepare for your home leagues. Sign up with promo code FTN to claim your 50% deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And do not forget to register with promo code FTN to claim that 50% bonus. NFL season is here, and who better to celebrate with than Underdog Fantasy? Super Glucose comments that I'm pretty good at reading. I have many years of experience, for those of you who don't know, doing ocean deck reads and back selling Stone Temple Pilots records. So, yeah.
That was a minute ago.
That was only like 30 years ago.
Yeah, Pilots records, yes.
It's actually really funny because in my little project that I'm doing to fix play-by-play from old games and whatever, I finally came across, this is like a total non sequitur, a game that's very memorable to me in 1997 between the Bears and the Patriots, because it's the game where I walked out on my check.
Where you walked out on who?
On my check. I ordered food. They brought the food. I ate the food. I asked for the check. That was halftime. I asked for the check again at the end of the third quarter. I asked for the check again at the end of the fourth quarter. When the check hadn't come about a half hour into the second game, I left.
Was that your first and only chew and screw?
That is my only time I've ever walked out on a check. But I figure I gave him 2 hours.
Nice. What happened in the game?
I think the Patriots won.
So you only remember the chew and screw?
Yeah, basically.
What did you order?
It was early 1997.
What did you order?
I don't remember.
What restaurant was this?
The Ocean Deck in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay. I was thinking for a moment that it was actually at like the ball game. You've eaten so many meals now on Robert Kraft's dime.
That is true. No, this was the Ocean Deck when I was living in Daytona Beach, when I was a DJ in Daytona Beach in 1997. Yeah.
I'm sure you're the only person in the history of Daytona ever to chew and screw.
Yeah, well,
Probably
not.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Houston Texans, kids. We love the Houston Texans this year. Like, they are one of our top projected teams. And the funny thing about that is that they weren't actually that strong in DVOA last year compared to their record. They were only 12th overall. But we have both their offense and their defense as likely to improve. The offense, of course, picked up Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon. The defense was not that great last year in a couple of places that tend to regress to the mean. They were not that great in stopping short yardage, and they were not that great in turnovers. So that's one of the reasons why we have their defense improving a little bit. So, Rivers, you're our Houston man. Take it away. What does it feel like to be rooting for a team that is now a contender?
Too easy. It feels too easy. It felt like it switched so fast. that I'm still kind of like, wait, what? The fourth best projected win total for the Texans? Really? This is what's happening?
Yeah.
I mean, I love it, but what? I just watched Chris Conley and Chris Moore catch balls for 2 years.
I mean, we may be a little too high. I wonder if we're seeing Stroud improvement when the fact is when you're as good as a rookie as Stroud was, you don't usually improve in year 2 because you were already so good in year 1. But then again, if he plays the whole season, that's still offensive improvement overall because he missed games last year.
That's right. He got a couple out for the concussion against the Jets. So, I mean, the Nico Collins missed a couple games as well. Like, there's a little bit of room everywhere to get a little bit better. Offensive line definitely can get better. The running game definitely can get better from last year. So, I mean, I can see how that would work out in the numbers.
You mentioned in the book the running game. Mixon isn't necessarily an improvement over Singletary in that respect.
Yeah, he's an interesting fit in the system because last year he was better at gap plays, and the Texans primarily are a zone running team. So I'd be interested to see what kind of facts they looked up, what kind of if any attributes they looked at in his tape and were like, this is the guy that we need for the zone running game. So that'll be interesting for sure. But I mean, clearly Mixon much more storied back clearly than Devin Singletary. So I think there's at least a little bit of hope there.
I think part of the reason why the running game might improve might be the offensive line, right? They're fairly deep at offensive line. Now they've got to have Juice Scruggs at center for the entire season with a year of experience. The right tackle, is Howard going to play right tackle, or who's going to play right tackle? It's probably better than George Fant.
It definitely looks like Howard is going to play right tackle and Kenyon
Right.
is going to play left guard. So
Right.
we'll see how that plays out in camp. But yeah.
So we're definitely getting a couple comments saying that the Houston will probably be good, but not quite as good as everybody is making them. So we'll have to see.
I mean, part of it is you price in the division and you say, well, this is a team that, even if they take a small step back, still look like they're leaps and bounds above the competition, which we're about to get to.
Right. Well, we have the competition lower than, conventional wisdom likes the competition more than we do, but yeah.
And ours is in a different order. I think we're going to get to that.
But defensive wise, Greenard out, but Daniil Hunter and Danico Autry in. Sounds like a little bit of an improvement for at least in the short term. Cashman out and Aziz Al-Shair in. Sounds like Aziz Al-Shair sounds like a little bit of an improvement, although I don't think off-ball linebackers move the needle much. And this is a place for me to finally complain about something that really annoys me, which is that he pronounces his name Al-Shair, which is ridiculous. It's Arabic. It's pronounced Al-Shair.
Dude, live and let live. What are you doing? These guys can pronounce their names however they want.
There's two A's. That means that there's one of those little apostrophe things in there. Yeah.
Secretly, Cashman played pretty well last year. So
did he really?
He's a real loss. So? But
then that's probably not an improvement.
But I do think Al-Shair is pretty good. So I think they at least kept that even lateral movement.
Matthew Carley says, good quarterback, good offensive tackles, good wide receivers, great ends, and great coaching. What's not to like? Yeah. Rex Timotheus says, Tennessee is better. The Colts are better. Jacksonville is even better. Houston is not going to have an easy time to me. It would be a tough argument. We'll get to Tennessee. It's a tough argument to me that Tennessee is better. I understand the arguments for Indy and Jacksonville. I do not understand the argument for Tennessee.
He meant that the team's improved. Not that they're better than.
Better. Oh, okay.
Right. That's how I first interpreted it too. So
not that all three teams are better from the Texans.
Right. Especially when he's saying "ew" about the Jaguars, which is like, what? I thought the other teams have improved. I don't know how the Colts have actually improved, and you talk about that. I guess we'll get to that in a minute.
Improved. The idea behind the Colts is if Richardson is healthy, that he's leaps and bounds better than Minshew, but we'll get to that idea in a second. The hole on this team clearly to me is cornerback other than Derek Stingley.
Right.
And that's a problem because you can avoid the good cornerback and attack the bad cornerback. And Jeff Okudah better freaking come to play, or they're going to attack him all day long.
Early in camp, have you heard Rivers? It's like Lassiter is really getting pushed into that first role.
Yeah, I think Lassiter is going to push up into either the slot role or the number 2 role. So,
right, I figured he was the
way he's on the field. Yeah, either way he's on the field for sure.
That's Kwamity Lassiter, for folks who don't know, is the second-round pick. Kamari Lassiter.
How is it properly pronounced, Aaron?
Kamari Lassiter.
From the ancient Etruscan. Is it
Kamari Lassiter? Don't even get me into Folu Fadakasi.
They settled that in the Punic Wars, actually.
What about Henry 2020?
2020. I love Henry 2020 because he has a strange random capital letter in the middle of his last name. There used to be a tight end named John Fitzpatrick who had that too. He had a capital P in the middle of his last name for no reason.
Oh yeah, John Fitzpatrick.
I can speak for Irish heritage. There's no reason for that. There's no reason for that. That's in the wheelhouse of I can comment there.
So I mean, I really feel like Houston is the best team, even if they're not better than last year. That this is the best team in this division, and they won the lottery. I mean, they picked a good head coach, and that's good. Yes. But they won the lottery, right? They had the second pick. They took the quarterback everyone thought should go second, and he just happened to be way, way better than the one who went first.
Even the one that Nick Cassera would have picked first, I think, if you gave him the truth serum. So
yeah.
Quite fortunate. Quite fortunate to be here. Love it.
That was you mentioned it in the book, the poorly kept secret of how much the Texans really wanted Young.
Yes, and they would have traded up to one. Had some offers out there for one, I think, and just the Bears decided the Panthers' offers made more sense to them. So there you go. Right. Saved by the Bears.
Indianapolis Colts. So this is one where we're pretty different from conventional wisdom. So different that Rivers, you basically wrote the whole chapter about how we are different from conventional wisdom. The first thing I'll note here is this is a team that didn't change a lot from last year. For each of these teams, I wrote down the in and out of players. And the Colts is like a very tiny list. Flacco in, Minshew out, Zach Moss out, rookies. And that's basically it. Otherwise, it's the same team as last year, except Anthony Richardson is healthy.
And people love Anthony Richardson. Anybody who watches the Anthony Richardson tape is like, hello, I want this in my life. And especially if you are on Underdog Fantasy, a website that may sponsor this program.
Yes, I would definitely say that my feelings about Anthony Richardson for fantasy football are different than my feelings about Anthony Richardson for regular football.
Yes.
I mean, my problem with Anthony Richardson is the talent and the athleticism are huge. He is effectively a rookie, and you cannot count on rookies to be good because you just don't know. I mean, what I've been saying on some podcasts and stuff is between Chicago, Washington, and Indy, I expect one of those teams to be a lot better than our projections, one of them to be a lot worse, and one of them to be about the same. I don't know which one is which.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I looked at what Richardson did last year, and that made it really hard to write the chapter because I was like, oh my God, this guy is like jumping out of a throw with Aaron Donald on him and making it. We're really going to pick against this team. We're really going to put them down for 6.7 wins. Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, definitely you can look at the numbers. You can see the history of quarterback play, and you can be assured that, hey, this could work out. This could work out really, really well. Or it could be okay.
Yeah,
or it could be bad. Or he could get injured.
Yes. I mean, that's what you touched on it. It was like 3 injuries. It wasn't like, one injury happened.
Yeah.
3 injuries. In the OTAs, he was having some problem with sore shoulder. He's full go right now. But like the 2 arguments is, well, he doesn't quite develop in that manner, which who knows. But the other one is this is an injury case. And when it's not just one ACL or something like that, but a series of them for a running quarterback, I think that's a legitimate concern.
And a quarterback who we expect to run a lot.
Yes. Absolutely.
And otherwise, this is a team that was not as good as its record by DVOA. And like I said, didn't really change the roster very much other than bringing in rookies, which isn't that exciting because Every team brings in rookies. They had a first-round pick and a second-round pick. Most teams did. So they're not really ahead of anybody else by getting a first-round pick and a second-round pick.
The 2020 and 2021 Texans challenge your thesis.
Well, so do the Rams. So do many years of Rams teams. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, the Colts fans' optimism, and then you look at their cornerback room and you're like, Juju Brent is cornerback 1, huh? And he didn't play very well last year.
Dallas Flowers, baby.
Dallas Flowers is around here, and you're like looking at the low round rookies, and you're like, oh, this could get ugly in a hurry, actually.
Right. And Brent's is a guy. He's a matchup corner. I really liked him coming out of school, but he's like the 6'3" guy. Yeah. It's not like you can put him out there against Tyreek and this problem's solved. He's good for DeAndre Hopkins, etc. So there are still some questions there. By the way, I just want to hit this real quick. We've been talking about our projection. Our projection for the Colts to reach the playoffs equates to a plus 485 money line. We think that they should be at plus 485. House is at plus 140.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think against the Colts making the play, a Colts no on the playoffs is a good bet in Vegas.
Right, it's a no on the playoffs. Stay away from it. If you're a Colts fan, do what you want. But if you're looking for values, we're like, no.
Yeah, this is one of our largest differences with conventional wisdom. I mean, partly because of Houston.
Right.
And partly because of the AFC in general. The fact is, we have 8 AFC teams in the top 12.
Yes.
So even if we're really wrong about one of those 8 teams, that is your 7 playoff teams.
Right. Yeah. And we're guaranteed to be wrong about somebody because
right. We could be wrong about a couple of them, and some team from the bottom leaps up and makes it. But maybe that's Jacksonville, or maybe that's the Charger, right? I mean, there's other teams that could be that team. But yeah, if everything goes the way we're projecting, one of those 8 teams doesn't make the playoffs, and the only one of those teams from the AFC South is the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about the Colts that I do like also is their defensive front 7. Like their defensive line especially is pretty solid.
Yeah, I think the edge rushers are not. The edge rushers there's some good edge rushing, but it's not like they don't have like that guy.
They don't have that guy, no, but they have Ebukam, they have Kwity Paye, they have Deo, they have DeForest Buckner. They've got a lot going on.
Well, the defensive tackles, having Buckner and Grover Stewart as your top 2 defensive tackles is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Right. And Franklin's a heck of a linebacker, a good leadership type guy, etc. And I'm excited. I want to see Lotto. I had a high ranking on Lotto. He could be like this sleeper guy who turns into that guy.
Exactly.
The team that we have a little bit ahead of Indianapolis is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I wonder if we're sleeping on them a little too much, right? Like it's still Trevor Lawrence. And are we all still Trevor Lawrence believers? I'm still a Trevor Lawrence believer.
I'm a believer to the extent that I think he's a franchise quarterback. I don't know if he's a Matt Ryan quarterback or if he's like a top 10 guy. But
yeah, I mean, he may be close to the worst of the franchise quarterbacks, but he's a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess I need to see him back on the field, and I with his kind of rebuilt receiving core that does not look as good. And
I mean, last year they were playing a lot of Zay Jones and a lot of Parker Washington.
I mean, Christian Kirk is kind of an underrated player, and our projections really like Brian Thomas.
Right.
And Christian Kirk missed the last 5 games or whatever it was of the year. So, I mean, that was a big deal for them. They were running out of guys to throw to at the end of the season.
Running out of guys to throw to. Lawrence wasn't there for all of that. There was a very discombobulated miscommunication type of thing. And that's it when there's discombobulated miscommunication, and then we're bringing in a rookie and we're bringing in Gabe Davis, who has never been like Mr. Super communication guy on the field. That's a worry. That's a projection at that point.
That was a tough signing to write about. That was a tough signing to write about. I'm
that should be a team with a good front. That should be a good front, right? Travon Walker really kind of blew up last year. Josh Hines Allen, no longer the other Josh Allen, is a very good player. Arik Armstead is here now. Foye Oluokun is a very good player at off-ball linebacker. So the front looks pretty good. I think there's questions about the secondary, right? Tyson Campbell was nowhere near as good as he was the year before. Ronald Darby is, fine.
Yeah, he's a pro. He's been getting good accolades in camp.
He'll be solid until he's hurt, like he's always hurt.
By the way, Armstead is working on the side right now. He's not a full participant. I don't think it's a major issue.
No.
He was expected to be full go at camp. He's starting camp limited. Got my tidbits here. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's Darnell Savage might be the nickelback, or he might be a safety, in which case a third-round pick would be the nickelback named Jerry and Jones. I don't know how good the secondary is here.
Well, they gave Campbell a big contract recently, didn't they?
They did. They gave Campbell a pretty big contract. So they're counting on the inconsistency of cornerback stats that he's really good.
And you have Darnell Savage out there for extra inconsistency because that's one of the most inconsistent players on the planet. Like you said, Darby is usually fine and then hurt for a while, and you deal with that. A lot of these guys, I would say Gabe Davis is this feast or famine type of player. Just a lot of that up and down the roster.
I feel like
he's a big size speed believer, and that's the Gabe Davis thing for sure.
Hey,
that's all Gabe Davis, the size and the speed. What he wants.
There's a good quarterback and a good head coach. And a lot of players that are inconsistent, and it kind of all seems to add up to like 9 and 8 to me.
Yeah, and a head coach who doesn't always get the fit and finish exactly right for the team. Where if there's a potential for sloppiness, sometimes Peterson's teams will get a little bit sloppy. Real quick, we're at plus 145 to make the playoffs. House is at plus 130, so we're kind of right on the house.
Yeah,
expected the Jaguars.
Basically, we have them as the 9th best team in the AFC, right? I said 8 of the top 12 teams are AFC teams. They're the next AFC team.
Okay.
I feel pretty good about betting that. I feel like that's that. I think they have a good chance to make the playoffs, even after all this stuff. But yeah, is it going to be pretty every week? Probably not. Is there going to be inconsistency? Yeah, for sure, especially with the rookie wide receiver. But I think once Brian Thomas kind of gets settled in, they've got a pretty good core now.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet it because it's not sizzly enough. It's like we're right on the.
Yeah. Super Glucose says it sounds like Vegas thinks 3 teams from the AFC South are making the playoffs. I don't think so. I think the Vegas has the AFC North and AFC East teams higher like we do.
Yeah, and you're going to have a lot of teams. I don't get the exact math straight in my head. You got a lot of teams at that plus 140, plus 145. That's not necessarily they think they're going to make it. That's just a comfortable odds for them to, put the action out.
The last team and the sort of forgotten team of the AFC South is the Tennessee Titans. In some ways, they remind me a little bit of the Saints in that everybody's kind of forgotten about them, but they're not really as boring and dull as the Saints. They do have a young quarterback who, while we may not necessarily be Levis believers, he does seem to have a strong arm to go downfield. They have this interesting wide receiver group of old wide receivers plus one young guy who seems to suck.
I mean, seems to doesn't really need to be there. I mean, for the last 2 years, he's been bad. Can we be honest?
They have L'Jarius Sneed now.
They have Jamal Adams, who was complaining that, and I heard this on Vancouver radio earlier today, and I checked it. He was mad at the Seahawks who were trying to make him a linebacker.
He'd probably be better as a linebacker.
He is a linebacker. He's just a tiny, itty-bitty linebacker. That's all he is.
Oh, the athletic ego is a tough place to be sometimes.
So the Titans, there's a good amount of change on this team, right? Like, I mean, a lot of it depends on how good Levis is. But if you look at the in and out, like I made a list, Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd and a first-round left tackle and J.C. Latham and Lloyd Cushenberry from the Broncos and Sebastian Joseph Day and the 2 cornerbacks, L'Jarius Sneed and Chidibe Awuzie. And they lost like 2 of their starting linemen and Derrick Henry and Danico Autry and Al-Sha'ir and Sean Murphy-Bunting. Like, there's a lot of change on this team. I just don't know if it's positive net.
I think they're a pretty solid bet to improve on the offensive line because they have been brutal the last 2 years there. They get Bill Callahan away from the Browns.
Well, that's a big plus. Bill Callahan is probably the biggest plus. That Brian Callahan is the new head coach and brings his dad along is probably the biggest plus.
And you get rid of the Andre Dillards and the Aaron Brewers out there. I think right tackle still looks like a pretty big hole, but otherwise there's at least a little bit of hope and promise there around the line. So
I think Nicky's little brother,
baby brother is
brother is still the right tackle, Petit Ferrer.
Yeah. Yeah, and he has not shown out over the last 2 years. Gambling suspensions has looked bad last year.
Yeah.
Jalen Duncan's kind of who we had as the backup in the almanac. He's been rough. So yeah, I think they'll kind of have to slide protection to that side a lot. But I do think they have a chance to get, into the low 20s maybe instead of 30 or 31 or 32.
Now, I'll say this. Our projection for the Titans to make the playoffs is a plus 265 money line. The house is at plus 425. Our projection is bullish.
We actually have them better. That's a surprise.
Bullish on the Titans. I don't like a Titans playoff prop bit, but I'll be looking at their over-under wins because it is one of those teams where if you start stacking these guys and say, does it stack up to 8 and 9? I feel like it definitely stacks up to 8 and 9. You do have, better cornerbacks. You do have wide receivers who are going to catch the ball. And if you think about the guys last year besides Nuke, it was disastrously bad. By the way, Traylon Burks is in the best shape of his life.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is. It's official.
I mean, when you run all those special teams gunner drills, you can't help but get, best shape.
They do have an average strength of schedule. Bill Houston says this year may be the most anonymous team the Titans have ever fielded. And it really is. Who's more anonymous, the Titans or the Saints?
Ooh.
I don't know. Those Jake Locker Titans were very forgettable.
Yeah.
I mean, Derrick Henry gave them a personality. In addition,
they're gone now, and that was their personality. That was Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Early before that, even like Jake Locker, we're talking like 2011, 2012. Those are some anonymous teams where you just had everybody hates Cortland Finnegan. That was the storyline, basically.
That was it. He was like the star. He was the person you talked about in Tennessee. Yeah, those were bad years in terms of, and they won some games. It was just like, who are they?
Yeah, Hitchhiker's Buy says late 2010s Jags versus Titans Thursday night football games. Those were pretty anonymous,
but they were fun.
Derrick Henry ran over the Jaguars often, and the Texans.
Yes. Yeah. So overall AFC South, I mean, so our numbers have it as Houston is the clear favorite, Jacksonville, and then Tennessee, and then Indy.
Yes.
I'm going to guess that you guys would put Indy ahead of Tennessee, but you wouldn't.
No, I mean, I might move Jacksonville down. That'd be the team that I've got this like nervous twitch about, that they're gonna do what the Eagles did late in the Peterson thing. That's what's going on in my head with them. I could see them being the last place team as Tennessee just hovers in at, hey, look at us, 8 and 9, and kind of sits there.
I think because of Richardson and how like polarizing these outcomes can be, I can see the Colts finishing first. I can see the Colts finishing last.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's all stable.
Right, I'll get spanked if I'm totally wrong about Richardson, even though my guess is if I'm totally wrong about Richardson, then I'm right about Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy. And
sure,
but I'm going to be wrong about one of those guys is going to have a season. Yeah. I just don't know who it is.
Right.
It might be 2 of them, but it's probably one of them. And if it's Richardson, that'll be really exciting because Richardson is a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he's incredible. The stuff we saw last year was incredible. So
it would be nice if what we got with Richardson. I mean, I will say he has good sack avoidance.
Yes.
So it's as exciting as the best parts of Justin Fields, without all the really bad parts of Justin Fields. So that's promising.
It is, and there were still some accuracy issues. I mean, we could see improvement there for sure.
Yeah,
and you're in a system that will help him, the Shane Steichen system, where there's RPOs that are more.
That is one of the things I've heard from people is the idea that maybe we're too low on the Colts because the coaching is really good, that they'll know how to design the offense for Richardson. I think that was Robert Mays' opinion when I talked to him about the Colts.
Sure. Yeah, and I totally buy that as far as you give Richardson some easy throws, and Steichen's really good at making these easy throws up. Yeah. Like it was not hard last year. They were one Tyler Goodson catch from making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that ball was right on him. It wasn't about the ball, he just didn't catch it. So
and the other thing, by the way, about the Colts, Minshew was kind of average last year. Which means to be an improvement on Minshew, Richardson has to be better than that. If he
Right.
has just a kind of average season, it's not really an improvement, even though it's much more exciting.
And we can pick apart Minshew's actual throws and be like, well, he didn't hit this. Well, he will never hit this throw, so on and so on. But they were functional.
Yeah.
And that's something that a lot of teams can't say about quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you get that volatility, and Minshew's in another division, of course, right now. That volatility with him, and you sort of have this ceiling limit with him, but then you'll have these long stretches of him just working very, very well within the structure, improvising a little bit, and, providing, league average play.
All right, that does it for today's show and talking about the AFC South. Don't forget, if you haven't bought the book yet, you need to buy the book, which is at Amazon and at ftnfantasy.com/almanac. And of course, if you're a subscriber to FTN, check out the new FTN Stats Hub. This is a really cool thing. Yeah. I haven't played with it as much as I should, but we're going to have updated DVOA during the season with charting splits. So you can figure out, like, during the season, like, which team has the best defensive DVOA in zone coverage as of week 9. Like, it's all going to be updated during the season. It's going to be really cool. And if you're an FTN subscriber, you get a discount on the Almanac. So definitely check that out.
This
Very
is
exciting.
People who are like old FO heads. And it's like, well, we had a hard time getting the FO functionality. You're getting that and more now. You're getting that and more now with a subscription.
Next week, we will hit the AFC East. I don't know who our guest will be, but it will be me and it will be Mike. And we will talk about the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Patriots, the team that I surprisingly like more than everyone else, but has no offense.
Right.
So 3.5 good teams.
We'll be joined by Jacoby Brissett next week.
Jacoby Brissett will join us
That would be
next week.
amazing.
All right, that does it. We will see you guys next week, 11 a.m. Eastern again. Thank you for everyone for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.